Hi, everyone. Welcome back again. And again, I hope you've had a really good week, that you're learning, thinking, writing, drafting, learning, thinking, writing, drafting, all of that circularity of what it takes to ignite your idea and move it forward and ask for funding. Today, or this week, we're going to be talking about your project request. Last week, we talked about the problem statement, and the problem statement should lead into specifically a project request because you've identified a problem and then you've also proposed a solution to that problem. Abhi, tell us more about the project request process.
For sure. So this is kind of the third step in the process, right? So the first week we talked about writing your story, your mission, your assets. We then kind of moved into this process of, defining the context under which you're working, the problem that you're trying to solve, and obviously the solution that you've come up with. Now we're starting to get into the practical elements, the weeds of the entire process, to be able to really identify how much is it going to cost for you to do what you want to do for your solution. So in this section of the video, we're going to talk a little bit about the project request. In the next video, we'll talk about budgeting. But project request really is very much connected with your budget. What it does is it basically breaks down your solution into different activities and allows for a potential investor or a funder to be able to look at your venture, your organization, as a functioning body. If I were to give you money, how much money would it cost for you to do the thing that you say you're going to do, the solution? Right? So in order to do that, we're going to break it down in a very, very simple way. You look at your problem, right? You've got that problem from the problem statement in the previous video. And then you've got your different solution. And some people might have one solution, right? In the previous example, you actually saw two solutions. So some people might have two solutions. Regardless of how many solutions you may be proposing or may offer, you have a different list of activities. And you want to be as clear as possible in outlining those activities so that a potential funder can see, okay, in order to achieve the solution, in order to have this kind of solution to the problem, this person or this organization is going to take X, Y, and Z steps to be able to get there. So here's an example from that previous case study that we talked about, developing your project request while being flexible. Now, the problem that we talked about in the previous video was the lack of overnight X-ray technicians, right? That was the big problem in the hospital because it's open 24/7. Now, the two solutions that we mentioned in that video was number one, to hire an overnight technician, or number two, recruit an on-call technician. They're two quite different solutions, right? Now, each one of these solutions has different activities laid out. So if you hire an overnight technician, you would put out a call for technicians, you would host interviews for potential candidates, and for both of these, you would have to have a budget. If you're putting out a call, you need to put out ads on newspapers, ads on Facebook, and all that social media. If you're hosting interviews for potential candidates, if you're having them in person, you need to probably host them for lunch. You need to be able to organize transportation for them, all of those things, right? Those are dollar amounts that you need to put in a budget in addition to the cost of actually hiring an overnight technician. So if, overall, if you just told me you're going to hire an overnight technician, as a funder, I would think, okay, that means, let's say if it was $5,000, you need $5,000. And that's all I would focus on providing for as a funder, right? But if you break it down, then I know that actually you need $5,000 for salary, and then you need an extra $1,000 to be able to put out the call in newspapers and to be able to host interviews. And that is the holistic element of a proposal or an executive summary that most funders and investors are looking for. The same is true in the second example that we've shared here as well. If you're trying to recruit an on-call technician, that would mean that would be someone that is within your company or within the hospital. So first you'd put out a request, an application from current list of technicians to join that on-call list. You'd probably have to do some printing out, probably have to do some publicity similar to the previous example. Second, you probably have to host some orientation sessions for these on-call technicians, right? Explaining what it means to be on-call, what are some of the duties, what are things that they need to be aware of. If you're hosting it in an in-person way, there's some costs attached to it. There are always costs attached to activities. And so you want to lay that out in this section of your proposal or your executive summary. Gail, if I'm missing anything else, please feel free to add in here.
No, I think this is great. And I would add that you may, under the last line there of the activities, you may have many. You may have, not just two that we have here, but there may be other little elements, other little tiny steps that you have to take incrementally to hire the overnight technician. You may know what it would cost and what the salary is. Maybe one of your activities is that you have to do some research. You have to find out what the daily wage is for an overnight technician. And then I wanted to add, so I was going to say, just put as many activities out there with some estimate of what it costs to get that hiring done, in addition to the amount of money that you want to pay the technician. Fill that all in for yourself. And the reason we put up above while being flexible in parentheses is because you will find that when you go through these steps and you think through all the steps and the activities you have to take to hire the overnight technician, that you will be able spontaneously to answer a question from a funder or an investor that says, what's the best way I can help? Then you can give that funder and that investor a lot of options. Maybe a funder or an investor, in addition to giving money, might say, wow, I could spread the word for you. I could take your job description and I could put it on my network. So you want to be flexible for all those different ways that someone can help you meet your solution, whether it's a monetary request flat out or whether it's in one of your activities.
For sure. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gail. And I think hopefully this example is giving you the kind of breakdown that you need to be able to start developing your project request. Because what we're going to do in the next video is start then putting these specific activities into a budget and painting this picture of how much it actually costs for you to do the activities that you say you will do. So we'll look forward to seeing you in that next video and then continuing this conversation. We hope you're enjoying it so far, and thanks for joining us. See you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.